So first up is former finalist Dan Overall, who joins us on Zoom. First of all, good evening, Dan.
Evening, Rachel. How are you doing?
We're very good. Looking forward to chatting to you. But first up, let's get your preview.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic little race this, actually. It's a really interesting little puzzle. 8 runners, so each way punters will be hoping that all 8 stand their ground. First thing to note, though, I think, is that despite not being a massive field, there are a few good ones in here that like to go forward. You've got Neil the Legend, who made all to win on his penultimate start. You've got Patroclus, who will be handy, while the Chameleon and Not a Role Model's best performances have also come when they've been given an aggressive ride. So you reckon there's going to be plenty of pace on here. Now, I wonder if Phlegmatic might be a bit out of his comfort zone in that sense, because he's dropping back from 3 miles here. And I don't think he suggested he really wants to come back in trip. So I just wonder, especially when he's gone up £7 for winning a fairly weak race that was full of older, more out of form types, I wonder if he might find this a bit too much for him, and he's probably not for me at the prices. I thought One True King was a bit overpriced when he opened up. I think he's around the 10-1 mark on opening. And I thought that was very generous considering he'd been running in quite deep races. He was stepping up from 2 miles here, which I think will help, as will a better ground. I think, 7-1 now. I still think there's a bit of value in that. But the selection for me is Dayran de Carjac. Now, oddly, given the time of year, this is a horse I've been desperately waiting to see run anywhere other than Cheltenham, because I just don't think his running style or the stiff finish there suits him whatsoever. I think that was typified by his penultimate run, which you can see on screen. He did really well here to come from off the pace and to have a chance coming to 2 out. But as it has often in the past, the hill has just kind of found him out. But despite that, he's been running consistently well in these top grade 3 2.5 mile handicaps around Cheltenham. And he's been dropped £8 for 3 runs this season, which I think is another example of the very lenient handicapping some of these horses are getting. And it's allowed him to sneak into this 0 to 130 off a mark 129. Now, if you go back to his novice form, that looks a really generous mark. I mean, he was third in a couple of grade 2s behind the like of Champ and Midnight Shadow. His win at Huntingdon under a penalty reads very well. He beat a very good field that day. And at a track like Kempton, which isn't too dissimilar to Huntingdon, I think this is going to be a much more suitable test for him. He needs good ground, which he's likely going to get here. It's definitely on the good side of good to soft. He can make the odd mistake, but I think the better ground and a flatter track is going to help him in that regard. So Dayran de Carjac for me, I think he'll be ridden patiently. There should be a good pace to aim at here. It's definitely a drop in class for him. And Alan King's won this race a couple of times in the past few years. So Dayran de Carjac for me.
Because our next Tipstar challenge is Grant Bradbury. He joins us on Zoom. Good evening, Grant.
Evening, both. Hope you're both well.
We're good. We're really good. And we're looking forward to getting your preview on the Adonis Juvenile herd. We'll have a chat after, but we'll let you take it away.
Thank you very much. Well, I really don't expect a slowly run race at all tomorrow. Lucy Wadham's Greystone is probably the potential pace angle in the race for me. He's most experienced in the race, having 5 runs already to date. He's won twice. He's finished 2nd and 3rd. And he was actually unlucky when he fell at the last in front at Taunton. And I expect the horse to go from the front again. 2 horses that are entered here that carry a £5 penalty, and they've also both run against each other twice already this season. One that Darryl will know really well is Nicky Henderson's Impulsive One, and favourite Night Salute for Milton Harris. Now, Night Salute is 4 from 4 and unbeaten over hurdles so far. 2 of those wins have been at grade 2 level already. He's had a course and distance win that you can see at the moment at Kempton in October, where he beat Impulsive One that day by 2 lengths, and he was in receipt of £7. Now, he's a strong traveller who's usually produced late, and he's shown an immense turn of foot in his runs to date, and he's a deserved favourite in my opinion. Impulsive One was 2nd to Night Salute in that Kempton race, and also behind the same rival and Gary Moore's Portacello, when 3rd in a grade 2 at Doncaster in December. He's won the Scottish Triumph Hurdle on his last start at Musselburgh, which was a listed race, and he also won 2 early season hurdles at Plumpton and Huntingdon by quite a distance. He's not actually entered in the Triumph Hurdle, so I should imagine maybe this race and then Aintree could be his target for the rest of the season. Gary Moore's See the Moon gelding Teddy Blue is a really intriguing contender for me on Saturday. He made his UK hurdles debut at Lingfield on heavy ground, and he was keen throughout the start of the race. He finished 2nd by 7 lengths that day, and he does need to settle better, but I should imagine Kempton and the better ground that he might encounter should suit him. And he's actually by the same sire as Tritonic, who's the winner of last year's Adonis Hurdle. He started his career in France, and he won a 1 mile 6 furlong good ground maiden at Saint Cloud. And his debut at Longchamp, he actually finished 1 length in front of Vauban, who is the Triumph favourite at the moment, so that looks pretty strong form. Mocha Devassi is another horse I like for Jane Williams. He was second at Cheltenham last time behind Pied Piper, who's another fancy for the Triumph Hurdle. He looked a stayer that day to me when I was watching from the stands. He's run 3 times and they were all been on left-handed tracks. So I'm not sure how Kempton and a right-handed sharp track will suit. But he's still a maiden. If you're going to lose your novice status, you might as well try and win a race like the Adonis. His half-brother, Marika Devassi, actually runs in the Dovecot later on the card as well. There's 3 horses making their debut in the Adonis over obstacles, and they're all entered at the Triumph in Cheltenham. Benicia Williams runs the famous 5, who was 3rd on debut on the flat in France. And there's a line of form that ties in with Roubaud for Paul Nichols, who was 5th in that same race on what was his second career start. Paul Nichols also has Pleasant Man entered, who's a Galileo gelding who's rated 93 on the flat when trained by Roger Charlton. He could be a really high-quality recruit if he's taken to the new discipline, and he beat Pied Piper on the flat. He's a hold-up horse, and I think he's one to keep an eye on through Saturday's race. Another trainer with a great record in the Adonis is Alan King. The stable actually won this race 3 times in the last 5 years, with Frightonic winning the 2021 renewal. This year's entry is Big Boy Bobby. He's been second so far over jumps twice, both in January at Hereford and Huntingdon, which are both right-handed tracks. And you've got Oliver Greenl, who potentially runs 2 in here in Patient Dream and Iroko. The former was a second on his National Hunt debut, but disappointed in 2 runs since, and he definitely needs to improve. Iroko was second on Hurdle's debut in France at Auteuil, and then 4th on his UK debut in a Grade 1 Coral Finale at Chepstow. He's thrown into another graded race here, but he's bound to improve from his Chepstow run. All in all, this should be a fascinating contest. I think Night Salute is a solid favourite and the likely winner. It looks to be good to soft ground at Kempton, which I think the horse will enjoy, and he'll be tough to beat, I should imagine. He could still line up in the Triumph Hurdle in 3 weeks' time if all goes well. Impulsive One, I don't expect to be far away, but he's been beaten fair and square by Night Salute twice already this season. Teddy Blue really is the dark horse for me, and I'm also excited to see how Pleasant Man takes to his obstacles as well.
Before we chat any more, let's get your preview.
Okay, so yeah, I've been given the Pendle Novice Chase. It's the 3rd race on the card at Kempton. Typically produces a small field, so the 5 horses here isn't that much of a shock. I'm actually going to whittle that straight down to 4 because Go a Lil, I don't believe, has much of a chance. I think that the connections will be hunting around for a little bit of prize money, minor prize money that is, especially given Pick Dorhey and Miller's Bank have got a couple of letters next to their name. He only ran 5 days ago, so I assume this has been a bit of an afterthought. I'm also willing to discount Fantastic Lady for Nikki Henderson. Just don't think she's really beaten too much. I beat a 125 rated horse last time, and that would be a far, far way off the standard here. So that does leave us with 3 in the field. We have Manila Drama, Miller's Bank, and Pick Dorhey. I'll start off with Manila Drama, who is the solid horse in the race. Only finished out the front 2 on 1 occasion, and that was in a Grade 1 behind Edwardstone. So there's nothing wrong with that form at all. And that was also over 2 miles, where he did prove that 2.5 really suited last time. And I've one niggling doubt that his best form has come on softer ground. But yeah, I think if you're looking for one for a place pot, the Manila Drama's there. Another concern is that although being the solid horse, I do think the others are both more talented than him. Miller's Bank obviously finished 3rd in the Aintree Hurdle last year behind Abacadabras and Buzz. Abacadabras was 2nd in a Supreme behind Shishkin, and Buzz would most probably be pushing favouritism for the stayers if he was still in training at this point. The main concern around him is that he's unseated the last twice, so not one that would fill you with confidence. I did land on Pick Dorhey. Unfortunately, it's the boring favourite, but Paul Nichols has farmed this race. He's won it 11 times since 2006. And they've always fought a lot of this horse, and I feel as if this was going to be the coming-of-age season for him. He bolted up on first time out, and although 4 out at the time, he was was absolutely dominating the field at Newbury before falling. I do think he'd have won that day. As I say, 4 out would have been pretty hard to tell. He then won on his next start as well, and then I'm going to make a couple excuses for him in the Scilly Isles. I think chasing a strong pace against obviously L'Homme Press, who is going to be pushing not pushing favouritism, but has a good chance at Cheltenham. I don't think that played to his strengths, and then obviously very well advertised as well. The Paul Nichols yard has been bang out of form. Pick Dorhey's most likely winner, I believe, and I think Manila Drama's going to come second. I'd say that's the way I'd play it.
And we can say good evening to Andrew, who joins us from Ireland.
Yeah, Dublin, Rachel. Thanks very much. Hope you're having a good time.
Well, we are. We might be having a better time when we find out what you're going to be tipping. So take it away, Andrew.
Yeah, well, I've got the Dovecote Novices Hurdle, as you alluded to there, and the race was won last year by Cape Gentleman. Unfortunately, I don't have an Irish runner to pin my colours to the mast to this year, but it probably centres an awful lot around the favourite in this, from both an ability and from the way the race is going to turn out. Shall we have one more for Gary Moore and Josh Moore? He's in there at 13-8 at the top. He's a very free horse, and he won around this course and distance last year, obviously, in very impressive fashion, beating a good horse and Nicky Henderson's Walking on Air. This year, it's been a bit up and down. He was chinned at Ascot when he was a bit too free. They then tried to ride him a bit differently at Sandown in the Tolworth. That ended up backfiring, and they kind of let him bowl along last time out at Sandown to win a novice hurdle there by 20 lengths, very impressively. Shifts a little bit out to his left jumping wise. And I suppose, as I said, he's a very keen horse. He can be a little bit fresh. And as a result, there's probably one or two just niggly doubts in there for me to be going in at that type of price. And I really like actually the second in the market there, Aucan Risk, for Chris Gordon and Tom Cannon. He's been a very hardy, durable horse this year. He's ran 6 times already. He's won 3, and one of them being this Cheltenham Bumper, which is on your screen at the moment. And I thought this was an excellent effort. When he ends up getting chinned in this, and he drifts left under pressure, which is a want of his, unfortunately, but he also is a little bit inconvenienced by the eventual second Top Dog, who drifts alongside him. Now, Top Dog's won a listed bumper since the horse has come and nails him on the outside. The mare of Fergal O'Brien's Bonte went on to win a listed bumper at Cheltenham at November time as well. And alongside that, 5th, 7th and 8th from that race have won since. His hurdling has gotten better in his 3 starts. He won very nicely last time out at Wincanton in a novice's handicap of 117, beating Essential Jacko. Before that at Plumpton, he beat Marca Gold, who's won twice for the Moore team as well. So there's an awful lot to like about him. He's in there 7-2, 4-1. I know people will probably sniff their nose about backing a horse at that price each way. That would probably be the way I'd play it. I'm a bit more of a safety first punter than anything, but I think he's got a great chance in this. Go down the field, there's obviously some horses with plenty of ability and big chances. Isio's in there for Paul Nichols, who's on maybe a little bit of a retrieval mission, having been well beaten at Cheltenham last month. And I suppose with Paul's horses still slightly under a bit of a cloud, I could take him on. As for Frere Darm for the Skeltons, certainly a horse to keep the right side of. He's been 2 for 3, having not won a point-to-point in Ireland, which is very strange considering he's shown so much pace on the track for the Skeltons, but he'll be a very interesting novice chaser next year. As you see, a few of those, Mariko Devassi, Russian Ruler, good prospects as well. But to conclude, shall we have one more? Probably holds a fair amount of the aces, but I'm going into this race by backing Aucan Risk. I think he's a really likeable horse. Chris Gordon won the race in 2020, and hopefully he can do it again in 2022.
Hello, Ash.
How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad.
Right, well, we'll get on to the scarves and everything else in a bit, but let's get your take then on the Coral Trophy Handicap Chase. Take it away, Ash.
Yeah, so I am at university, so as you can see, scarves, and I've got a dartboard in the background. So, keep myself nice and fun. So I've got the Coral Trophy Handicap Chase. I had the Potemps qualifier last week when it was postponed, so I can't say I'm too disheartened at getting this race instead. It looks like an absolutely cracking renewal. Obviously, we've got Ansam at the top of the market, 5-star Getaway, Cap du Nord. And it's looked like some very nice form lines throughout the race. Just taking a little scan at the pace map, which I did in preparation, seems to be quite a strong pace on for this race. We've got Ansam, who likes to go from the front. You've got Beakstown and a horse that Darryl know very well, Good Boy Bobby. Beakstown seems to do a catch me if you can tactic throughout his career. He hasn't won since 2019, I want to say. But he just goes from the front and sees, really what can catch him. He's got strong form from the Novice Handicap Chase at the festival in 2020. And he was 10 lengths behind Imperial Alcazar last time out of Trials Day. I think he ran into one there. Imperial Alcazar got £8 for the run. Beakstown got nothing. He's off a mark of 130. He can be very interesting. Obviously, we saw Ansam. He went from the front at Ascot in December. He picked it up at the 8th fence and never looked like losing from there, really. And he's, very worthy favourite, and you can't knock him at the top of the market. Obviously, got the big breakaway back over a fence after his match against Chantry House earlier this season. He likes to be prominent in behind the leaders, as well as Laylor. So this could just set up for a horse coming off the pace from the rear and taking it out the late. That's why I'm siding with Zanza for the Philip Hobbs team. He started this season in the Howden Gold Cup, but on screen now you can see he was in the Racing Post Gold Cup against a fellow competitor on Saturday, Laylor and Beatstown. He was, as you can see here, he was about 8th coming around the bend. He had a lot of work to do. He had a lot of passes to get through as well. There's a lot of horses to get through. And at the second last, as you're about to see, he jumped basically into the back of Darian de Carjac, really halting his momentum. So he had to find a way to get past that. But he was very game coming into second, 2 lengths off Cool Cody. And I think that's been his best performance this season. He's travelled up the hill very nicely in that 2 mile 4 contest at Cheltenham, which would suggest that the 3 mile trip at Kempton this week, will really be relished for him. So yeah, look, as you can see, he jumps the last and he really powers up that hill. He was in the Paddy Power Gold Cup earlier this season. He finished a very creditable 6th behind Midnight Shadow, who's finishing 4th there. And it's very interesting from that race, jumping the last. He actually jumped the last 4 seconds behind Midnight Shadow in that Paddy Power Gold Cup in November, which is in rough terms about 16 lengths. He ended up only finishing 6 lengths behind the winner, again showing his staying credentials to get up that Cheltenham Hill. So the 3 mile trip at Kempton really should be taken in his stride. A 2 mile 4 around Cheltenham, stepping up to a 3 mile around Kempton, it would be easier than going to a 3 mile, say, at Cheltenham again. So this step up in trip really showing off his staying credentials. Philip Hobbs is in cracking form, about 23% strike rate in the last 2 weeks. And that Howden Gold Cup form at the start of the season, he was behind Eldorado Allen, who's a 166 horse. We recently saw him winning the Denman Chase at Newbury, and he was behind Hitman, who finished a creditable 2nd in the Tingle Creek. So in conclusion, I think Beatstown's a very interesting runner. Laylor himself's a very interesting runner, but I'm siding with the Philip Hobbs trained Zanza.
I will be previewing the 410 at Kempton on Saturday, which is a 2 mile 5 furlong handicap hurdle. The horse that initially stood out to me out of all of the 11 runners is number 3 course and distance winner, Half a Piece, trained by Pam Sly, ridden by conditional jockey Jack Andrews, who will give his £5 claim away from their 11.11 weight, which will be great for them. Jack has actually ridden him in his last 3 starts at Wetherby, winning most recently only 6 weeks ago, beating Ballyandy. Ballyandy has then gone on to win at Fakenham, backing up his form. He's just a brilliant horse to watch. He has a fantastic turn of foot. He likes to race out at the back of the field if you're watching his previous runs, and he speeds up right at the end. He's just great. He won at Kempton first time out on debut in 2017, so he knows the course as well. A horse that could give him a run for his money is number 7 Herbier for Oliver Greenl, ridden by Paddy Brennan. Paddy Brennan has won on this horse a few times, knows him down to the ground. Him and Half a Piece actually have very similar style of racing. They love being at the back of the field in the early stages and then outpacing everyone. I think it'll be a fierce battle for them in the finish, even though I think Half a Piece will still outpace him slightly. On to number 5, we have Flashing Glance for Tom Lacey and Stan Shepherd. Stan has done fabulous with him over the winter. He does carry £9 more after his win at Hereford last time out, and loves good ground. Hopefully the rain stays off for him, because as soon as it gets a bit soft, that's when he starts to bottom out. It's his 3rd start back over hurdles after his chasing stint, so it'll be interesting to see if they keep him over hurdles or not. And I can imagine he will control the speed. He loves to race out front. He's very consistent and he doesn't bottom out. Number 9, Darganini for Paul Nichols and Harry Cobden. It'll be Harry's first ride on the horse. He's lightly raced, very green. I think we can give him the benefit of the doubt because it's only his 4th start for the yard. No win yet, but he did come close 2nd in Taunton. Rallied to press the winner in the late stages, but didn't quite get there yet. Ideally, he would like to be in midfield as he's keen at the start, and I'm sure Harry would want to preserve a bit of energy for the end. A horse that could rain on his parade is number 11 Storm Dennis, trained by Chris Gordon and ridden by Tom Cannon. They will carry the lightest weight out of all of the horses at 10 stone 6. He's already proven well that he does good on right-handed tracks, being first at Huntington in January in a Class 4 handicap hurdle over the same distance. We know he has the stamina for this. He will be upsides against Darganini, I suspect, as he likes to say, midfield, makes up a lot of ground on the home straight, and was progressive as a novice and will continue to improve. Lastly, I'd like to touch on Navajo Pass, number 2, for Donald McCain and Brian Hughes. Unfortunately, they are top weight at 11 stone 12, which could hamper him, I suspect. He's not the same horse we saw beating Bouvidaire back last year at Haydock in the Champion Hurdle Trial. Since then, he's had a wind operation and he's just not bounced back. And he prefers left-handed tracks like Haydock, but they do take the blinkers off him for this run, which could make him a bit sharper. In conclusion, I think I will have to stick with half a piece. He's the favourite, but I don't think anyone's going to get past him. Herbier and Flashing Glance will come close behind him.